ground where warriors collide. DieHard MMA podcast, we won't hide. Clint's gonna defeat, analyze each brawl from the underdogs to the champions standing tall. Let the fury, let your instincts rise. Feel the adrenaline rush, it's time to defy. DieHard MMA, we're here for the thrill. Get ready for the madness. Let's make that bankroll spill.
Happy Friday, degenerates! Welcome back to the Undefeated Post-Weigh-In Show. That's your right. I am your boy, Clint. We are talking UFC St. Louis, and we just watched the fighters step on the scales. We just watched them face off with each other, and I've got the report. I've got the news. I can give you all the information that you need. Just that little sprinkle icing on the cake for you to make good bets tomorrow when it comes to the UFC. And that's right, you read that title correctly. This is the Undefeated Post-Weigh-In Show. Never a bad bet given out on this show. And hey, I usually say that tongue-in-cheek, but the last couple of weeks, that's actually very true. We're on some kind of a heater right now and hoping to keep this bad boy live through the next couple of events. Let's freaking go. What is up to the chat? See everybody rolling in. John, ban for life, insta ban. Get out of here with that shit. I don't want to hear it. All right, everybody, we are getting started here. First fight of the evening, JJ Aldrich taking on my girl Veronica Hardy. 125 and a quarter for JJ Aldrich. We've got 126 on the dot for Veronica Hardy. JJ looked like, you know what? It's funny. I had a real hard time finding the footage for these fighters today. For whatever reason, they weren't live streaming this thing. I think there's a like a bandwidth or an internet issue, something like that. Thank God. Shout out my guy, Rich. Yes, you heard me. Rich, my guy, Just Win Baby, sent me the link, found these fighter weigh-in clip highlights, so I was able to see them and then compare to the ceremonial. So we are all set to go over all this stuff. But I thought it was interesting. JJ Aldrich, she was like off to the side. Like, it was weird the way she was standing. It was like she was cocked sideways the whole time. I don't know. Maybe she was just standing funny. She did her usual one-arm flex looking thing. Veronica Hardy, she looked great. No issues at all. I will be always honest with you guys. I still think my girl Veronica Hardy probably belongs at 115 pounds. So she's a little small at 125. Never really has a problem making weight. But hey, her cardio is on point. She's good to go for a hard 15 minutes because there's really no strain getting herself to this weight class. Face-offs, JJ definitely has a size and thickness advantage here. She's a 125er. She is a little bigger than Veronica Hardy, which does give me some kind of pause. Very cool, calm, collected, good face-off. Nothing really to report there. I am on Veronica Hardy. She opened up as a decent-sized underdog in this spot and has flipped to being the favorite. I agree with her being the ever so slight favorite, even though she's a little bit on the smaller side. I think she's the better technical boxer. She's got the upside of the quick finish with submissions and things of that nature, and she is by far the more athletic of the two fighters. So when you kind of compile all that into one, I don't think the size of JJ is enough to kind of offset her being bigger. You know what I mean? I don't think it offsets the skill advantage that Veronica has. I don't think it offsets the speed advantage that Veronica has. We will find out. I'm the guy who always says physicality in women's MMA is numero uno. It's the one thing that you've got to watch out for, because a fighter who is bigger and stronger in women's MMA just wins. So I am a little nervous. I understand people buying low and taking the dog shot on JJ Aldrich now that the line has flipped. I get it. But I am firmly in the Veronica camp. And Micah Martin in the chat here, Veronica by sub. She's in the submission special this week, folks. She is absolutely in the submission special. It's like 7-1 for my girl Veronica to win by sub. I'll be honest, I don't think she can knock out someone like JJ Aldrich. JJ's too tough. We've seen her get chin checked before. We've seen her take big power shots before. She does not wilt under that kind of pressure. But I think if she stings her, if you get Veronica Hardy just being too quick and kind of backing her up and stunning her slightly, she's not going to be able to finish with the hands. But that's an opportunity to grab the neck. I absolutely think that the submission is going to be live here in this spot. Oh, we got our guy Andrew in the chat, the real big guy. Shout out to you, my friend. Speaking of which, no big guy action that we are aware of going into this week. So unless Andrew's got something else to tell you guys in the chat, I don't believe we have any big guy action or anything like that on this particular card. Mike, shout out to you. Thank you very much, my guy. Happy to see that you made the show here. And AWMD saying Quintus Duplessis, the Masked Singer. I saw that. I saw that he was the Masked Singer down there. That was pretty cool. That was pretty fun to see a UFC fighter, especially my guy Dreykus, involved in that kind of a thing. Tai Tuivasa is doing the amazing race. We're hitting mainstream, folks. The UFC fighters are hitting mainstream. It's finally happening. All right. Jake Hadley takes on Charles Johnson in the next fight here. Hadley 125 on the dot. Charles Johnson 125 and a half. Jake Hadley gave a good flex, a good smile. He actually was good to go in this spot. I mean, he looked like maybe he was like a little off balance, but he did the gorilla chest pound thing. The photo I tweeted out earlier myself, making the rounds here, he looks like death. Jake Hadley really sucks himself down. He looks like TJ Dillashaw did when he tried to suck himself all the way down 2 weight classes to challenge Henry Cejudo. It just doesn't look natural. It looks like it's really hard on him. But then when they get to the face-offs, he is smaller than Charles Johnson. Now, obviously, he's a little bit thicker, right? That makes a big difference, right? If you got like the torso, the frame, it's not the same thing as just being tall, lanky, and skinny. But it's interesting because even with all that effort to suck yourself down to that weight class, you're still not even having a size advantage going in here into this spot. Charles Johnson has been one of the most popular underdogs this week. He's still plus 110 out there right now. Jake Hadley is minus 130 as the favorite. Now, he was like minus 170 earlier in the week. We've got Charles Johnson, who's the hometown guy. This fight is in his backyard. You would think he's kind of the flavor of the week in this spot. Jake Hadley, potential fraud vibes, we're to the point where he should be winning these types of fights. If he's going to do anything, he needs to get by a Charles Johnson. I'm concerned, though, with how wide this line was and the fact that it hasn't flipped yet. The fact that I've seen every single person I know taking the shot on Charles Johnson, calling him to win by finish, all those things. And yet still, the bookmakers are like, nah, plus money. Plus money's good. Plus money's fine. Kind of scares the shit out of me, right? Like, I, from the jump, said I really feel like this is the spot where Jake Hadley maybe finally shows his true colors. This is the time after a year-long layoff where he puts the full fight together. He puts the pieces together and he goes, you know what? I am the blue chip prospect that you guys thought I was coming off Dana White's Contender Series. When Dana White saw all the red flags about this kid but signed him anyway, this is when he finally steps up and shows everybody what he's capable of. And I didn't want to lay minus 170 on it. Now that he's down to minus 130, you guys know I don't have any issue when I'm confident stepping up against the market and saying I completely disagree. I will put my balls on the table. In fact, I've already done that on this particular card, just not this spot. I'm nervous. And also Charles Johnson's my guy. Even though I've lost a lot of money on him, there were fights where he should have gotten the nod, but didn't. I still have that fanship. I want to cheer for him. I want to see him do well, especially on home turf. So Charles Johnson, I understand why everybody's taking the dog shot here, but I can't. It's favored or pass for me, guys, especially now that we're all the way down to like minus 130. I just think this is the point where you would buy low on Hadley if you really think he's got that potential for that upside. Plus 650 Hadley by submission is kind of the way that I would be tending to look here. The problem is Charles Johnson has such good submission defense. He'd have to catch him like perfectly. He'd have to hurt him with something bad and have him just be completely detached from his brain to be able to grab a neck, because Charles Johnson's not a guy that's easy to finish. In fact, nobody's been able to so far. So yeah, that's a tough one. That's a real tough one. Shout out to my guy Jake in the chat. What's up, buddy? I see you in there. All right. Next up, we got Billy Goff. He takes on Trey Waters. 170.25 for Goff. 170 flat for Trey Waters. Red face, looked rough, emotionless on the scales today. He did give a big flex, but I got to tell you guys, it looked like it was a pretty tough cut for Billy up there. Trey Waters, no problem at all. He's the tall, skinny type, a lot like Charles Johnson we just talked about. Same thing. He just doesn't seem to have as much of an issue because he keeps himself nice and thin. We need to do a slender man parlay. There's enough of them on this card. We can just set up a slender man parlay because there's like 4 dudes that have the exact same build on this card. Trey Waters, no problem. When they face off, he's got a massive height advantage, guys. I mean, big height advantage. Now, Goff is thick. There's definitely that short and squat versus tall and skinny thing going on here in this spot. And it's a similar situation to the last one, although not to the same extreme extent. Everybody's on Billy. Everybody's on Billy. He's still plus 140. Trey Waters is about minus 165 out there right now. And the same thing as last time. My position, I've leaned with Trey Waters in this spot. Now, I talked mad shit about Trey Waters when he first got to the UFC. I didn't get it. Didn't get it at all. Didn't get the appeal, didn't get the idea, was just like, nah, I don't see why this guy's in the UFC. I don't see why anybody's excited about him. And since then, I've kind of looked back on that and like, I mean, okay, I kind of get it. I mean, he wasn't like super impressive, but he got the damn thing done. And then looking at his opponent, Billy, in this spot, I'm not sure why everybody is just so excited about him. I mean, I get it. He's kind of Ribovics. We're going to talk about him a little bit later, where he's tough, he's durable, he walks forward, but he uses his face like it makes so much damage just to get in there and do the damage he needs to do to be able to go ahead and get the win. If you guys look in the chat, our guy Jake is handing off some real big information there, so I'll let you guys read his comments there, but he's got some good little nuggets there for you guys. I think this is a violent fight, guys. I think that Billy Goff and Trey Waters, it's going to end in a knockout. It just depends on who, right? Billy's either going to get inside and he's going to hurt Trey to the body. He's going to wing a big overhand to that big, tall giraffe neck, and he's going to clip him with something huge. Or Trey's going to be able to keep the distance, and he's going to be able to just kind of footwork and back away and clip Billy coming in, because Billy really only has one option in this fight, and that is close the distance. That is go forward. So if Trey's able to keep his footwork the right way, if he's able to keep the distance the way he needs to, Billy's going to be target practice. And that's what I kind of think happens here. I've got Trey. I don't have a bet on him. Say last 2 fights, I don't have a bet on either of them, but they are favorite or pass for me. This is the one, though, that you might want to have your trigger finger ready for, because live bet, absolutely. Actually, the last 2 fights, both of them, they are the same situation. Have your trigger finger ready live if you've got access to live betting, because both of these spots will absolutely potentially have like rapid flips, right? If it looks like it's close, but the momentum is starting to shift, you'll want to be able to get in there as quickly as possible, and you can probably get a decent number at that point. Next up, you've got Tisha Pennington taking on Tabitha Ricci. 115 for both women here. Tisha Pennington, jacked as ever, folks. Like coming back from the baby layoff. You guys know I got the new mom fade angle, right? Like we do not bet on women their first fight back after having a baby. But dear God, if anybody was going to do it, it'd be Tisha, because she looks phenomenal. Tabitha Ricci, no issue with her either. She does have those high cheeks coming out with her wake up, but she's good to go. They are the same. These two are the smallest 2 fighters in this weight class, and they size up extremely well. Now, I did catch, though, Pennington was wearing shoes. So Ricci might actually be just ever so slightly a little bit bigger. She was barefoot up there. So if they're the same size and Pennington's got shoes, they're just a little bit. You guys know on this one, I like Tabitha Ricci. I did go ahead and lay it with her. It's the new mom fade. It's not a different one. I think this is going to be a whirlwind between these two. It's going to be a tornado of strikes. Both women are going to have a hard time taking the other down. It's going to be high-level craziness, and neither of them have the power it takes to go ahead and get a finish. I did think it was cute. Tabitha Ricci talking about wanting to get in there and finish Tecia Torres. Folks, Dern couldn't finish Tecia Torres. You're not finishing Tecia Torres. It's adorable that you think you've gotten to that point in your life that you could finish Tecia, but it's not happening. So this one's going over. It's going all 15, unless one of them somehow gets hurt, or like I mentioned before, if Tecia is having some kind of bad issue or hangover symptom from carrying and having the baby. That's the only way I can see this fight finishing. It really is going the full 15 minutes. It's absolutely gotta be. But I do have Ricci ever so slight things. Terrence McKinney taking on Esteban Ribovics. We got 155.25 for McKinney, 155 on the dot for Ribovics, and McKinney look good. No problems on the scales today. Very relaxed, very calm. Seems like he knows his way around the place. He's a veteran at this point. He's got enough fights under his belt. Ribovics, a little bit sucked out, but he still looked like he had plenty of spring in his step. Good flex, moved well. I'm not worried about him. Terrence is slightly bigger, but not by a lot, guys. Not by a lot at all. I kind of thought Terrence would have a more pronounced height and reach advantage going into this spot, and he simply doesn't. Not only that, but Esteban has the head size advantage, right? We look at guys like Alexander Volkanovski that got those big old melons, and it's not until later in their careers that they start to get knocked out. It's because they got bricks, absolute bricks for heads. Ribovics, now the durability makes sense, right? You look at these two guys, their heads, they're just not in the same, they're not in the same stratosphere. Is absolutely massive. I have a hard time seeing this guy getting knocked out. I think McKinney's going to struggle, even with the vaunted power of a Terrence McKinney. He's going to have a hard time knocking this guy out. I think we see kind of a more mature. He tried to slow it down that one time, and it didn't really work out for him at all. I think he's maybe going to do that again here in this spot. What I've done is I played round 2, round 3 for Esteban Ribovics. I got round 2 plus 650. And then I got round 3, which I believe is 13-1 on Esteban Ribovics. They are expecting this fight to be a one-round banger, guys. And frankly, I think I can count on the durability of Ribovics to pull this thing through that first round. Now, both guys have the finishing ability. They've got the opportunity to get this fight done and done early. However, if McKinney takes a slightly more technical approach to this fight, it probably gets out of round 1. If Ribovics is tough enough and durable enough, which I think he is, it probably gets out of round 1. And then you get these big, sexy, juicy prices on round 2 and round 3. And I think where the value is at here in this spot. I don't really want to lay this price tag with Ribovics. You guys know my policy with fights like this. I have a hard time laying it because the round 1 guy could round 1, right? McKinney could absolutely meme this guy in the first round. And that makes sense. It makes perfect sense. So I don't want to be laying minus 155, minus 170 on a guy that could get flatlined in the very first round of this fight. Plus 650 for him to do it in round 2, though. That I could be talked into. Even sexier if he somehow drags it to round 3. If McKinney reaches the first round 3 of his UFC career, I will be ecstatic. I will be very excited at the prospect of Ribovics taking this guy out deeper into the fight. So I'm going to lean over 1.5. Again, I lean with the favorite ever so slightly, but recognizing the danger on the other side of this fight with Terrence McKinney. Next up, MMA Twitter Civil War of the week. Vyacheslav Borshchev taking on my guy, Chase freaking Hooper. 155 for both men here on the scales. And I'll be honest with you, Slava looked a bit rough. It seems like this may be a tough cut for him here for this weight class. He's getting up there. He's a little bit older. He's very, very intense, though. He had a nice smile and flex. Looked a little creepy on the scales today. Chase Hooper, on the other hand, his face is actually still sucked out a little bit. Guys, this guy's going to pull the full rumble. He was at 145, was just killing himself to stay down there, moves up to 155, and you can still see the effects of this weight cut with how sucked out he is in his cheeks and his head, and you can see his skull coming out through here. He really does still have a bit of a tough time making 155 pounds. This kid's going to end up being big. He talked about moving up to 170 at one point, and it's wild to think, but that actually could be something that happens at some point down the road. But he looked very intense. It was weird. Chase Hooper is usually a little bit more fun. He was very intense on the scales today. Hooper does have the height advantage. This was a very good stare down. I am pumped for this fight. And I don't know why I didn't take the low-hanging fruit option here a little bit more seriously. We could have done just a violence parlay. There's a couple of different spots on this card where it's like, man, that fight is absolutely finishing. And it's like Chase Hooper and then like the Goff and Waters fight. I think both those are finishing. And you can probably get somewhere in the ballpark of like minus 130 parlaying those two together. I don't think that's a bad way to look at it. Don't pick a side in a fight that you expect to be volatile and violent, and just bet unders and get decent lines on unders. I think that's a decent move. I already have a lot of money on this fight card, guys. It's super weird. I don't think it's a confidence thing for me. I do have a couple of hot takes. I do have a spot or two on this card that I really like, but maybe it's just that I'm on some kind of a heater and I'm getting a little overconfident, but I'm seeing spots that I really like on this card. So I'm invested pretty well. I got a lot of money on a lot of different fights, and I wish I had thought about that beforehand, because we could fade some of the variance as far as who wins the fight, just taking unders. I don't mind the under in this fight whatsoever. I already mentioned the under in the Waters fight. I think that one goes under as well. Obviously, the Terrence McKinney fight I think goes under, but it's like minus 250 for the under 1.5 there in this spot. I bet Chase Hooper, guys. I bet Chase Hooper earlier in the week. His submission prop is going to be the anchor to my submission special. You guys know I like to tie up 3 submission props and go ahead and put them all together in the submission special. It has not been coming together. I missed it by 1 for like 2 or 3 straight weeks. I went on a little run here earlier in the year where we were this close to catching it, but we haven't quite got there. I usually hit 1 per year, so like it's a stupid number. When it does hit, it pays for all the losses when it does come through, but it's just a little sprinkle bet. This week, we're going to go Veronica Hardy, Trey Waters, and then anchor that bad boy on Chase Hooper via sub. That's going to be the submission special, and it's like 2,000 to 1 or something stupid like that. I gotta look back at the number, but it's a ridiculous comeback on that one. But I really like Hooper to go ahead and get this fight to the ground at some point, and then be able to find the neck of Slava. Even if he doesn't get a takedown, this could be one of those spots where he just kind of like jumps on his back. You know what I mean? Slava is not a very good grappler. He does not keep control of like his body the way that you would like him to see always. So if he does get to him at all, body lock of any kind, like he will climb this guy and wind up on his back or drop for an ankle lock or something. You know what I mean? Like something like that. It'll drag him to the floor somehow. If he doesn't, though, he's a dead man walking. And that's why I like the under, because really, I don't think anybody can take 15 minutes of Slava just kind of beating on them punching bag style. The ref eventually will save Chase Hooper in that kind of a situation. So violence. Waldo Cortez-Acosta takes on Robelis Despaigne in the next fight here. We got 262 from Waldo, 262.5 from Mr. Robelis. No problem for Waldo. He's a big, thick old boy, screaming all over the place today, screaming at the ceremonials, screaming at the regular weigh-ins. Like, Waldo just feels like yelling today. He's having a tough Friday. Robelis, no issue from this guy whatsoever. Holy crap, does this guy have a chest and arms on him? Like, he's got the skinniest little, like, he's got like a 185 pounder's waist, and then he's heavyweight from like the chest and shoulders. It's a really weird body type, but he is massive, guys. Like, this is one of those ones where you see 2 guys that both weigh about 260 pounds. The numbers look like they're relatively close height-wise, not reach. Nobody's even close on the reach, but like height-wise, they were supposed to be like a couple inches off. Robelis towers above Waldo Cortez. He is so freaking huge. Salsa Boy is in trouble. Shout out my guy Liam Picks Fights. Salsa Boy is headed to the PFL. It's I got Salsa Boy. Not Salsa Boy. I got Waldo Cortez-Acosta. I've got him in a parlay. This one, I'm kind of starting to doubt myself on. Maybe I messed up, but it's one of those 2-week parlays that I like to throw together every now and then. I took Robles Despaigne, and I did go ahead, and I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. I tied him up with what's his name? What's his biscuit? The Rocks guy from next week, Themba Garimbo. And I got just ever so slight chalk on that parlay. And of course, as soon as I did that, some money came in against Themba for next week and dropped that number. You can get plus money if you like that same exact parlay with me going this week, next week. And I like that because I'm not 1,000% sold on Robles. So if he wins, I do think he wins. Then it's like, hey, thumbs up. Now we got a cheap price tag on a guy that I think probably should win his fight next week. That's the way I'm kind of approaching it. It's not so much a out of the park home run. This is absolutely happening. It's more of a price play, right? Like next week, if I've got even money or plus money on a guy like Themba that I do think probably gets by another opponent here in the UFC, now I've got a much better number and I don't have to worry about playing him any different sort of way. So a little thinking ahead strategery from your boy here this week. Real quick, guys, before I finish out this card, I do want to let you guys know we are running a free $50 giveaway contest over on Bet Openly for this week. Seems like it's going to be a weekly thing that I do for you guys here. So you know, they sponsor me. You guys know I've been trying to get you to sign up over at Bet Openly. This is just one more reason to do so. I'm able to do giveaways and stuff like that on there, and it's awesome. I love being able to just put free money in your guys' pockets. So on top of the benefit of saving money long-term gambling on a platform like Bet Openly, we can also do a lot of cool stuff where I'm just straight up able to give you guys cash. So we are already doing the Gauntlet 2, and we're in week 3. We're halfway through this one, so good luck to everybody in the running on that one. It's absolutely insane what people are doing. We've got somebody who's already up like $150 on that one, so there's a big lead on first place. We're gonna have to get a little dangerous here trying to catch this guy if anybody wants to make it. We've got $600 in prizes going for that, and then of course, like I mentioned, the free giveaway, $50 to the top. All you're doing is picking 5 fighters at this weekend's card. So get signed up, get in there, and come get some of this free cash, guys. Plus, it's the best place you can possibly bet on 1% juice. Save that money, keep it in your pockets. It's a good thing. All right, and Ethan Hershey, let me know when you're doing the Stimmy shirts on the merch shop. Yes, thank you for the reminder, Ethan. I appreciate that. I will check into that. Okay, next up, we've got Alex Caceres, and he's taking on Sean Woodson. Both guys made 145 pounds. Alex Caceres, big smile, great shape, look good, finger guns, like he's having fun. He always does. I love this guy's personality. Sean Woodson, though, one of the last fighters to the scale today. Absolutely devastating. He looked rough, guys. I mean, he's the biggest guy in this weight class, and he struggles to make this weight every time. But today, he looked awful. I mean, he looked drained. His eyes were sunk in. His mouth is hanging open. Like, this guy barely made it to the scale up there today. I don't know how or why he puts himself through this when he's got that kind of a frame. He would not be out of place whatsoever with just a tidbit more muscle moving up a weight class or even 2, right? Like, he's a big, big dude. Height advantage obviously goes to Wood when they face off, but it's not what you would think it is. You know, this guy towers over everybody. He's just a little bit bigger than Alex Caceres. Caceres is probably about as close as we can get to somebody matching the height and reach of this guy. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, because a couple of his recent fights, he's been like just barely getting out of the range of punches. Like the Charles Jourdain fight, the punches were like shaving his jaw as he was just missing some of those shots. And, you know, credit to Woodson for the defense. But if you're just barely able to skirt out of the range of a guy like that, give a guy like Alex Caceres, who's got 4 more inches of reach on his wingspan, those shots may be landing this week where they were just missing in the last couple of events. I think he's a size bully. I know he's got some good technical boxing and stuff like that, but I think he's suffering from that slow reload, right? I talked to you guys about that, where the speed advantage is a problem. Some of these guys that are so big, so tall, so lanky, they can't get their defense back because of how long they are. And I think a guy like Alex Caceres, with the speed advantage he has, is going to get to Sean Woodson. I can't for the life of me figure out how people are coming to minus 200 on Sean Woodson and thinking that's a bet they want to go to the bank with. This is a guy that I've been trying to fade basically forever. He skated by a couple of times where he really should have paid me. Looking back, there were a couple of different fights where I think they were very close and he kind of got away with one. Charles Jourdain, I blame him. He could have won that fight. He absolutely could have won that fight. That was a bad game plan, I think, from Charles Jourdain. I still think he probably could have won that fight if he just plays his cards a little bit differently. But at any rate, I'm going to war with Alex Caceres. Guys, I bet this guy 2 units at plus 164 earlier in the week. And then when money continued to pour in on Sean Woodson, I doubled down. I plus 180. I put another unit at plus 180 because I'm like, I agree with this market move. I don't understand how Woodson is a 2-to-1 favorite in this spot and just continues to grow. Everyone and their mother is all piling in on the same side. Oh, and I took the knockout prop, guys. I think the pillow fix Alex Caceres time is over. And we've seen Sean Wood have some questionable durability before, and people have just not been able to follow up and finish on it. Now, obviously, Caceres has ground threat, right? He can snatch necks. He can climb people's backs. He absolutely can choke this guy out, especially if he hurts him with the hands first. But I think what will happen is if he catches him with one of those long punches, puts him down, he will probably just be able to follow up with 2 or 3 shots, then put him away. The ref will step in and save him, that kind of a situation. I think the KO may be a little bit more likely, and definitely more likely than the books are giving it credit for, at 12-1. So that's probably my big shot prop for this week. You know, we got the sub with Anthony Smith last week. Let's see if we can go back to back. If we could hit a 14-1 last week and a 12-1 this, guys, up this one. But you look at some of the places that track like the like the bet handle and percentage and stuff like that, guys, it's like 90-10. I mean, there is no love for Alex Caceres coming in here on this, and yet you don't have a minus 500 line here. You know, it's one of those ones where it just makes you cock an eyebrow just a little bit, right? Like if everyone's parlaying Woodson, if everybody's just on Woodson anywhere from minus 180 to minus 225, but the bookies are like, well, yeah, okay, we'll move it to 180. It's like that, you know, I'm not the best market reader in the world, but that's got parlay buster written all over it. I'll take the dog shot. Come on, Bruce Leroy, do it for me one more time, buddy. I will take the more durable fighter, and let's hopefully he gets it done here. Next up, Carlos Diego Ferreira taking on Mateus Rebecki. 155 for Ferreira, 155 and a quarter for Rebecki. Maybe my least interested fight on the. Now, obviously, I'm going to enjoy watching this fight, but not one I like from a betting perspective. Ferreira, Carlos Diego Ferreira looked great. Solid abs, good abs on the guy. Face a little pale, though. He's getting up there in age. Weight cut's always tougher when you get a little older. You've got Rebecki, who's all lobstered up. He's all red in the face. Looks solid, though. Big flex. But he's tiny. They face off, and CDF's got a decent size advantage here in this spot. And that's my concern, right? I know size is not everything. And again, especially when it comes to the men. With the women, size can be everything. Not as much with the men. But he is so much smaller. As he gets higher up in the rankings for this weight class, I really think Mateos is going to start to struggle taking down and controlling these big, giant dudes. Now, Ferreira, we've seen the strategy work. We've seen this guy get his taken. We've seen him get body locked. We've seen him get dumped. We've seen him get dragged around the cage. It's happened. It's happened several times. So I think this is kind of a perfect fighter for Rebecki to go ahead and get the win. However, Rebecki is a guy we don't know how trustworthy he is over a 15 straight minutes. If he is not the hammer, what does it look like? If he gets tired taking this big boy down for 7 minutes, 8 minutes, what does it look like in the third round? I'm a little nervous. I don't like the minus 500 price tag. I'm also not anywhere near betting Diego Ferreira at plus 380. I know some people out there taking the dog shot, and I will never, ever talk you guys off a dog shot with a guy that's like 4-1, something like that. And we just saw what happens when the wrong guy tries to take that step up in competition too soon, too quickly with Anthony Smith. So I could absolutely see CDF being the guy that says, Mateos, not this weekend, buddy. You're not quite ready yet. Sit down, kid. You know, that could happen. That could absolutely happen this weekend. Alonzo Menifield takes on Carlos Ohlberg. We got Menifield 205.5. Ohlberg 205 on the dot. Menifield jacked. My God. Huge arms, huge chest. No problem. No issues making weight for this guy. Carlos Ohlberg, all smiles on the scale today. He's in great shape as ever. If you guys have a lady in your life and you want to talk her into watching fights with you, just show her this guy's Instagram. Like, she'll be fine to sit next to you on the couch and watch these fights this weekend if you show her Carlos Ohlberg. Ohlberg has a big height advantage in this spot. We knew he would. Alonzo's always a little bit short. He was kind of having fun at the face-offs, and Ohlberg wasn't really having it. It was good to see. Menifield kind of growing on me a little bit as time, even though I've lost a lot of money trying to fade the guy. Ohlberg is a minus 280 favorite. You can get plus 225 coming back on Alonzo Field. And Atomic has me just kind of scratching my head a little bit, guys. I tried to fade both these guys. I try to fade them both with regularity. I'm not a fan of either. I don't know what the ceiling is for either. And everyone, again, is just absolutely obsessed with Ohlberg. Now, he's been good to you guys. He has been cashing all those knockout props, and he's been getting it done inside the distance. So I understand why people who bought in on Carlos Ohlberg right away are just like ride or die with the guy. But I just can't help but see the holes, right? Like, I can't help the struggles when he gets out around one. I can't help but see the fadeaway and the fear in his face when he gets tagged by somebody who's got decent power. Like, I think he's going to be a fade. Now, I tried to fade him way too early. But, you know, I think the fade is coming again right around the corner here. And it's a spot where I want to bet against him, but I don't really want to bet on Alonzo Menifield. I'm going to wait and I'm going to watch this one live. I'm picking Ohlberg pre-flop to go ahead and win this fight, but I'm going to be looking very closely at betting Alonzo Menifield as this fight goes on, because if he can survive that first round, if he does his usual kind of plod forward, conserve energy, be defensive, but kind of be the aggressor, I think he can wear down a guy like Ohlberg. Ohlberg has the big cage to work with, so it's going to be lots of footwork. It's going to be lots of movement. Use that speed advantage. Stay on the outside. Stay away from this big hulking boy that's going to try to get in there and grab you around the waist and drag you to the floor and make you choke. I think that's going to be how this fight plays out. And if That's how this fight plays out. I think Ohlberg will get tired because he puts a lot of effort into finishing his opponents. And when he doesn't, there's a very notable strain on him as he starts to fade, as he starts to gas. So if he doesn't get Ohlberg out of there early, and I'm sorry, if he doesn't get Menifield out of there early, and if Menifield still looks like he's got gas in the tank and Ohlberg's mouth is hanging open to start round two, that's where I'm going to make my position. That's where I'm going to make my move. In fact, pre-flop, let's just look at what the numbers are for round two, round three Menifield, because that's kind of what I would be looking to do live anyway. Let's see here. Round props. Menifield round two is 10-1. Menifield round three, 14-1. So now, obviously, if he's a plus 225 underdog and he loses round one relatively hit, plus 500, plus 6 maybe going into the second round, depending on how much the books think Ohlberg is getting out ahead. And then you can still win a decision that way. He doesn't have to finish. But I do think the round two, round three finish is probably the way this would happen, whether it be the KO or sub. Who freaking knows with this guy? The way he fights, I never know. Is he going to try to get on top of him and pound him through the floor? I don't know. Is he going to try to Von Flem and just put that giant shoulder in the guy's neck and cut the blood flow off to his brain? I don't know. So I don't want to pick sides. That's the thing. So I think the live bet after round one, if we like what we see, is probably the best way to go. Ohlberg's best chance at victory, obviously, is that round one or round two type of KO. Now, he could stay on his bike and just win a 15-minute decision and be able to outlast a guy who also doesn't have the best cardio in the world. So that's why I'm kind of staying away from this one, because Ohlberg, rightful favorite. Definitely could spoil the show, because I don't think Ohlberg is ever worth being this big of a favorite, unless he's fighting somebody who's chinny, obviously, because then he's done in round one and call it a day. All right, everybody. Co-main event time. Joaquin Buckley takes on Nursultan Rasaboev. We've got Buckley making 170 on the dot, Rasaboev 170 and a quarter. Buckley was really funny today on the scales, faking like he was having a hard time, stumbling all over himself, hanging on to the railing. Dude's in crazy shape. Dude's in absolutely insane shape. 170 is not an issue for him because of how short he is. He always came in at 185 at like 182 or 183. Like, he never needed the full 185 because he's just fine. Like, he didn't need to cut weight up there. So he's in his right weight class at 170, but he is on the smaller side. Nursultan Rasaboev looked a little sucked out today, but again, he's the tall, lanky, skinny bastard. He would go in the slender man parlay if you were going to take that approach to it here. Looked a bit sucked out, but no real issues here. He's massive though, guys. Like, this is a what was it? Stefan Struve and Barry back when they fought. Heightest guy in the division versus shortest guy in the division. Heightest guy. That's a thing. I just said that. Tallest guy in the division taking on shortest guy in the division. That's what we've got here. There's a massive discrepancy between the heights of these two fighters. Buckley looked tiny when they faced off, but he's huge, dude. Like, he's so freaking big. His back is massive. He's got gigantic arms, and he was flashing cash on Nursultan Rasaboev there for face-offs, and Buckley pulls out like a wad of cash and is like counting it at him. Very entertaining face-off here. Rasaboev was not having the disrespect. He was doing the Khabib one finger at him to tell him what's what. I can't wait for this fight, guys. So I've made my stance on this very, very clear. I do not like Nursultan Rasaboev. I think it's just a matter of time. The time to fade him was last fight, and he somehow eye-poked his way to a TKO victory. I will never not be salty about that referee not stepping in and giving Cedric Dumas a minute to recover from what was clearly a illegal eye poke. And then the fact that they didn't call it a no con, but actually still gave the guy the first round TKO, livid. Absolutely livid that it wasn't just a push when that kind of a situation happens. Anyway, we move on. What we've got here, though, is a Nursultan Rasaboev who has the majority of his success at 185 pounds, cutting down to 170, where he's really struggled with some of these guys. I think Buckley is the better fighter literally everywhere, and I've said this before. This is the Terran fight. Nursultan can nuke Joaquin Buckley. A big, thick, meaty right hand on him. Knockout fight comes down to. And I think Buckley takes over. I think Buckley is better over 15 minutes. I know Buckley has the wrestling upside on this one. And if you get a short, stubby little, if any of you guys have wrestled or done jujitsu, if you get a short, stubby little bastard like Joaquin Buckley sitting on your chest and you're all arms and legs like your boy here, and you're trying to reestablish your guard. You're trying to fish for an underhook, but the space that you need is about this big and it's down here. So you're doing this thing to like try to get your underhook back. You can't. You can't. It's impossible. These little fuckers get on you and there's not a damn thing you can do about it because you're too long. That length works great when you're on the feet. If you can keep them on the outside and kick and punch at them where they can't touch you, that so 15 minutes. We have seen Ribovics lose multiple decisions this way before, and I think that's kind of what we're in for. I wouldn't be shocked with just the explosiveness of Joaquin Buckley, the improvements that he's showing throughout his career. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Buck finds his way to a late finish. But I kind of think if it goes late, it's going to be a, hey, just get the win type situation. And we end up with a Buckley decision. Over 1.5, you're tempting fate there, trying to go against Nursultan was above, but not quite. But I think you're just making a Buckley money line bet anyway. So I would be looking at Buckley on the money line if that was the case. All right, guys. Almost done here. Nascimento. And we've got no issues talking about how his weight was on point. He was much skinnier and lower than he normally is. He's keeping to his diet. Like, my guy is ready to go here in this spot. He's entering the second career, basically. He's talking about how he's in his prime right now. And for heavyweights, that does tend to be true. They can fight a whole lot older at heavyweight because all they basically need is that explosive power. And as long as they've got that, their game plan still works just fine. But my guy Lewis still has those fat man abs showing on the scales today. You can tell he's still doing some work. Rodrigo Nascimento, first guy to the scale today, but wearing a t-shirt. Wearing a long sleeve t-shirt covering every inch of his torso up, this man comes to the scales today, and it's worse. It's worse than sunglasses. That is a cardinal sin. If you're not showing me your body as a professional fighter who's going to fight half naked in a cage tomorrow, what you hiding there, buddy? What's going on with you? Why are you weighing in and not showing off a little bit? I think that, what's he hiding? He might have a staph infection. Maybe he gained a little bit more weight than he wanted to. He's not confident. He doesn't like how he looks, doesn't want any pictures taken with those big man boobs flapping in the wind. You never know. But I'm just saying, the t-shirt is a giant red flag every single time. Now, these guys size up pretty well. Very intense stare down. I mean, Rodrigo Nascimento definitely looking to make like a name for himself here and get the biggest win of his career by far. But I also think that this is a spot where there's a reason the UFC didn't send this guy to Brazil with an easy matchup with the rest of them last week. They kept him to take on Derek Lewis in his backyard. Now, Lewis has struggled in his backyard many, many times. We know he's got a bit of a tough record in his own home, but this is a fighter who's been put on a platter for him to go ahead and get the win over. Rodrigo Nascimento likes to get in there and bang it out. He likes to close range and throw hands and usually puts that speed advantage to work, but he also is not a KO guy. He's got some stinging power, don't get me wrong, but he usually winds up getting clocked with big counter shots instead. And even when he got guys hurt before, he can't quite get the TKO finish. Now, he will jump on your back. He will submit you. He's got solid jiu-jitsu. He's a big guy that knows how to handle himself on the ground. But there have been many, many times where he's been hurt by far less caliber fighters than a Derek Lewis. If Derek lands early, this guy's going out. And on top of that, Derek's talking about wanting to get this thing done quickly. Usually we don't hear that kind of language from Derek Lewis. He's a guy that carries his power late. I've talked about that. You've always got to be careful with these round ones for Derek Lewis because some takes it slow, likes to kind of feel his way around the fight. He'll give up a round or two. He'll get taken down and then he'll work his way back up. He'll start round 3 on the feet and then boom, that's it. You're down. You're done. Thanks for playing. That's kind of how Derek Lewis does it. But in this fight, he's talking about delivering something special. In this fight, he's talking about wanting to get out of there, not wanting to take his time. He's calling the round 1 finish in this one. He says he's going to go in there and knock him out. And guys, frankly, I believe him. I've already bet Derek Lewis. I think the money line is fine in this spot. If you want to take the KO prop, this is probably the kind of fight where the KO might as well be the money line, but there's just not that big of a difference in the price. So like on DraftKings, you can get Lewis minus 162 and the KO prop is minus 135. It's a 30-cent difference. That's the kind of thing that I think is almost almost negligible. If something weird were to happen, the Ngannou fight takes place again, I don't want to be out because of 30 cents. If Derek Lewis was a minus 200 favorite, I used this example on Monday, and you get, even money on the knockout, now we're talking. That's a big savings. I will absolutely buy down and take that. But this is just not that big of a gap for me. So I'm going to suck it up. I'm going to chalk it up. I'll lay it. I'll go ahead and pick Derek Lewis here in this spot. I have already bet him. Folks, that is the Undefeated post-win show. We're going to keep staying hot. We're going to kick some ass. We're going to make some money tomorrow. I can absolutely feel it. Make sure you join the Home of Fight Discord. You guys can find me there. I'm posting all my action in there. So I always post everything publicly on Twitter, on Instagram. I use the hashtag DieHard Picks. That way, if you search that hashtag, you can see all of my picks and only my picks that have been posted using that hashtag, so you can kind of organize it and sort and see throughout the week what I've put my money on. It's way simpler. If you just join the free Home of Fight Picks Discord, you guys can see my specific channel, and the only thing I'm putting in there is fight picks and then explanations for those picks sometimes. So very easy way to track what I'm playing each week if you want to jump in there. And like I said, it's free. So come hang out with us. I will put my final card up tomorrow before the fights. These start a little bit early. They start at 1 p.m. for me, so I guess that's 4 p.m. Eastern time, I believe. So a little early than most normal UFC fights. So you guys want to make sure you wake up bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, pour that bottle of Fireball, get ready, chilled. Make sure it's in the freezer. Get that Fireball chilled before the fights start tomorrow, okay? We don't want to be having a situation where you're trying to suck down warm Fireball in the middle of these fights. That's no good for anybody. Hope you guys kick some ass this week. It's going to be a fun card. It's going to be a violent card. It's our favorite type of dumpster. Jump on in with me, guys. Let's have a good time. Have a wonderful weekend. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. And for those of you degenerate gamblers who just went, oh, shit, you're welcome. It's Mother's Day weekend. Go do something nice for your mom. Let's roll.